I thank the gentleman. It is clear that there is a new day on the Committee of Ed and Labor. And that committee, led by Chairman Scott, has shown itself to be the People's Committee. And I'm delighted that his longstanding membership with the Congressional Black Caucus has shown that his work is for all of America, but through the Congressional Black Caucus, he has helped and elevated families who have suffered because of racial discrimination, because of economic inequities. He has been focused, and certainly I want to credit him again with the work that has been done on HBCUs. I can assure you, with HBCUs in Texas, everywhere I go, they are taking note of the increased funding that has allowed them to do issues or handle matters with physical infrastructure, scholarship, the new Pell Grant. I needed to add that, the new Pell Grant executive order, student loan executive order that has allowed for those with Pell Grant loans to making $120,000 to get $20,000 in relief. The Congressional Black Caucus worked extensively to ensure that those people with student loans were not forgotten. Let me say it again. We work without ceasing to ensure that individuals who were overburdened with student loans couldn't get down payments for housing and other matters for their quality of life. We were ensuring that we were in the front, if you will, to continue to advocate for student loan reduction. Let me just say this as I prepare to yield to my dear friend on the floor here. As the poet Langston Hughes reminds us in his famous poem, Mother to Son, that life in America for African Americans ain't been no crystal stair. And what I would say is that the goodness of this message is that in spite of it all, African Americans have put on uniforms and fought their battles on behalf of this nation. African Americans are great lovers of this country, and they're great patriots. African Americans have worked in every level of government. They have, of course, been individuals that worked, as some would say, at the bottom of the totem pole, meaning every manner of work they have done. And they have been African Americans who were enslaved, who helped build the White House and the very building that we're in, never to hold the anger of their station in life, but continue to work to insist on a better quality of life for their families. So it is very much important to take note of the bills that we have been able to do as individual members of Congress. And so I'm just going to cite H.R. 7566, stops human trafficking in schools, that I introduced, and then, of course, working with an amendment to the workforce innovation, ensuring HBCUs full access to job skills training, amendment to H.R. 8294, the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill, to ensure that HBCUs had Pacific work. It supports the work of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture by increasing the funding by $2 million. And then I want to finish more deeply on the H.R. 40. And that bill is much exhibited, as I've been on the floor before, with this slave and his back, and the whelps on his back from a whip. This was the life of slavery in America. And I just read recently of Germany's response to aging Holocaust victims, which I applaud, providing millions of dollars to respond to their pain, just recently. And so in the course of the commission to study slavery and develop reparation proposals, it will give America a moment of healing. We've been hearing this discussion across the nation and across the world. Most recently, of course, in the halls or the places in Great Britain. But for America to take that stand, that the discussion is worthy, that the study is worthy, that the idea of what kind of proposals would come about, what inclusive ways will we deal with the recognition of over 2 centuries of slavery, unpaid, no insurance, no workman's comp, no days off, from sunup to darkness, beat by the whip, as the slave narratives in 1939 told us. The stories are powerful. Ripped away from our families, made families, husband and wife and children, and then you would hear the pleas in the slave narratives when they say, "Come home, husband. They're about to sell me and the children in different ways, in different places." It happened to slaves all the time. I was honored and humbled to meet the survivors of the Wall Street Massacre. It happened in 1921. Those people were, in actuality, some even former slaves, but mostly descendants of the most recent people who were slaves. The most recent. Their ancestors or their mother might have been a slave, but they built a Wall Street, but yet it could not survive because of racism and discrimination. So, to heal our land, the Congressional Black Caucus has worked in many ways to heal our land. And I'm grateful of their advocacy for just a fair and simple study and assessment of what we should do to repair what occurred 2 centuries and continues even today. The story is long about the inequities of the GI Bill, redlining, the discrimination in voting, in the criminal justice system, the basis of wealth, so distinctive between other populations in this country. So I want to thank the Congressional Black Caucus for the extensive legislative history that it's had over the 117th Congress, and it really is my privilege, Madam Speaker, to yield the remaining of my time to speak about the accomplishments of the Congressional Black Caucus to our dear colleague and friend who has shown himself a leader, and that is Congressman Troy Carter of Louisiana.
Recognized.